Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
Yeah, we're here. Curd and Long. After the first round is done, I'm pissed. I'm just telling you right now, I'm pissed. And I'm going to go to sleep tonight. I'm going to get up tomorrow. We're going to do Wisconsin Sports Daily. And hopefully by 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, I'm in a better mood. I'm hoping I'm in a better mood because otherwise I'm going to yell and scream on that show too. I'm Sparky. He's Ryan Horvat at Ryan Horvat at Sparky Radio. Bucks play tomorrow. May not have Middleton, may not have Giannis. So that's just going to irritate me even further. Tomorrow, I may be in a bad mood all weekend. It's my kid's first communion on Sunday, so I hope I don't wreck the whole weekend for the entire family by being in a bad mood after this Packers pick. I did not think it was possible to piss me off tonight. I really didn't, Horvat. We're coming down the draft board, and I think we were at 20 or 21, and I tweet out, holy cow, there's Arnold, there's Mitchell, trade up and take either one. Here we go. And do you know what I got from Packer fans? I got, oh, Sparky, calm down. The board's falling to him beautifully. You know, you don't have to trade up. It's good. It's good. It's good. And I'm looking. I'm going, huh? I tweet out, I go, you know what's going to happen? Philly and Jacksonville are going to take these two dudes back to back, and the Packers are going to get screwed. Watch. Nope, that didn't happen. I was wrong. Philly did what they were supposed to do. Jacksonville traded back with those snakes, the Lions, who come snapping up in front. And you know what I was saying on Twitter, Horvat. Here you go. Take Cooper DeJean. Here you go. Take him. Here's Cooper DeJean, Lions. Go ahead and take him. I've been telling you, been telling everybody on the radio, Lions are going to move in front of the Packers and take Cooper DeJean. But of course, why would you take Cooper DeJean when Terry and freaking Arnold is sitting there, arguably the number 1 or 2 cornerback on everybody's board, and Packers didn't want either one. No. Then we find out from Gutekunst tonight that they had a bunch of calls from teams wanting to trade up to their pick when they were on the clock. Teams in the first round where they will move back a few picks. And they had teams coming up from the second wanting to move up and give up picks. Brian Gutekunst, nah, couldn't risk not getting Jordan Morgan. Hey, I could not have Jordan Morgan. That's my guy, Jordan Morgan. Got to have Jordan Morgan. Pissed. Really, really pissed. Because Jordan Morgan is not going to be a starting left tackle, I don't believe, in the NFL. Doubt he's going to be a starting right tackle in the NFL. More than likely, he's going to be a starting guard. Is he a Pro Bowl guard? Maybe. Maybe he's a Pro Bowl guard at some point. Would you rather have a Pro Bowl guard or a Pro Bowl corner for 10 years? Which would you rather have? I ask you that. If you're asking me, I'm taking the Pro Bowl corner any day of the week over a damn guard. Any day of the freaking week. Okay, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually more upset about it than I am because, I mean, I wanted Cooper DeJean. You didn't want Cooper DeJean. Let me ask you really quick. Hold on. Before I give you my thoughts on Jordan, could I ask you, would you be more satisfied if they took Coop?
To a degree, because providing they were going to play him at safety next to McKinney, that would have made more sense to me. This kid here, I'm telling you right now, go to Mike Walsh's Twitter account. He tweeted it out just before we started, a link to a video he did on this cat, Jordan Morgan, a month or two ago, right? He goes, if somebody asked him about, I can't wait to see the video on Jordan Morgan. He's like, don't wait. I just did this like a month ago. So I watched it. Don't watch it. I love Mike Wall. I want him to give views. You're going to depress yourself. First thing he says is, well, he's not a first rounder. Let's just say that. He's definitely not a first rounder. He's a project, you know, at some point, you know, maybe he'll end up to be a good player. Then he says, it all depends on where he ends up, though. You know, if he ends up on a bad team and a bad offense, but if he ends up on a good team and a good offense, then he can flourish and he can be a pretty good player. So now he starts showing tape. And then it just gets worse because you're just watching the guy like bear hug everybody, hands way outside. And Wall's like, if somebody decides to bull rush this kid playing like that, he's going to run right over him. He's got no chance. He goes, not to mention the fact, if this is how he's going to play, there's going to be holding flags left and right on this kid. The only positive, again, I didn't watch the whole thing. I got depressed. I turned it off. I was done. I watched 3 minutes. Maybe it gets better the later you watch it. But as soon as he said he's not a first rounder, and then the next words was he's a project, and then Goot says, I see Jordan Morgan being able to play 4 positions for us. 4 positions? Okay, left tackle's got to be one of them, obviously, right? Does he think he's going to play center? He said 4 positions. So left tackle, left guard, right guard, I'm assuming are the 4 positions. I think I'd rather keep Rasheed Walker at left tackle. Go ahead.
All right. So first things first, we're cheating on the diet with a late night, especially since we're staying up. It's 12:43 while we record this. Xavier Legette, which I gave you all week long and everybody else, goes in the first round at the buzzer. I call him Deebo Samuel 2.0. I didn't want Green Bay to take him, though, because he fills the Jaden Reed role. I had to shout myself out because that was one of my favorite bets that I've ever
got it at what, 18-1 early on? Something like that?
Yeah, dude, like nobody even knew who he was. He finished second in the SEC in receiving yards. The only thing that scares me, he was a late bloomer, and that's a perfect way to go into Jordan Morgan. So luckily, this is crazy actually that they took Jordan Morgan. I think he is a first round talent. I'll get to that in a second, but I figured he was probably going in the second round. And in my head, because I'm a huge loser, so I wanted to see Legette go to Carolina. I wish I could have bet that exact result, but I actually thought that Carolina would have maybe taken Jordan Morgan. I thought that they would go offensive lineman. Everybody else thought that they would have went wide receiver, which they did. But I just thought, they gave up all those picks to the Bears. So I actually watched a bunch of Jordan Morgan because I was thinking about taking Carolina to bet an offensive lineman with their first pick. And I got to be honest, man, I'll tell you what I like about him. So he's 6'6", 320. And
has arms as long as you.
Yeah. So, also, man, the reason that I watched so much of him was, so his junior year, he really struggled, right? He's old. He's what? He played 5 years, I believe, right? Yeah. Okay. So I like his size. He's 6'6". The RA, you look at his RAS,
it's a 9.
Yeah. So he's a good guy, but I like the 6'6", 320. And the reason that I like the size, I'm not trying to be I'm not breaking down draft film or anything, bringing up 6'6", 320. Here's a guy. But what I like about that is the only thing that I worry about when I watch him is he could get pushed around a little bit. And I think he needs to get stronger, whether it's tackle or guard. And I don't think you take a guy in the first round. Gary Ellerson tweeted at me and because I wanted Coop. I got to be honest, man. And I know that and I'm cool with Terry and Arnold. I would have been cool with Kool-Aid McKinstry. I would have.
How about
honestly,
Mitchell? Did you like Quentin Mitchell?
Spark, you ever see a guy
worked? Quentin Mitchell, that would have been okay, right?
So I was cheering for him to be the first defensive player taken just because I love Maction. I love the Mac. And I was like, who's the last defensive player taken in the first round out of the MAC? And I was trying to go back, dude, and I was like, has there been anybody since Khalil Mack out of Buffalo? There probably has been, but it's late, and I can't. I was thinking of this the other night, really late too. I like him though. I think, but the thing is, it won't shock me if any of these guys end up being the best corner. But what I like about Coop is that every year in our secondary, in Green Bay secondary, there's injuries, and I like a guy where they're I watch his ball skills. I watch a lot of Iowa. Unfortunately, I bet them every week. They have no offense, but he was their offense on special teams, which our special teams always stinks. He also gets downfield and makes tackles, but his ball skills were he could pick a ball off over his shoulder and then take it to the house. And it's because he's a hooper. He's a basketball player. That's why I keep bringing up the basketball tape. I would have taken him.
He's still there. They can still take him at 41 at this point. He's still there. If they want him, they can trade up to the top of 2 and go get him if they want him.
They won't take him, though. But what I was going to say is, have you ever seen a guy in the green room and they show him and you're like, man, that's the guy that I need? Nate Wiggins is kind of that guy. I already liked him out of Clemson, but they showed him in the green room, and you know who he reminds me of? He's just swaggy and kind of chilling. I liked Caleb. Caleb Williams is scary because I'm watching him in the draft room, and he reminds me a lot of, who he reminds me of is Aaron Rodgers. He's got some Rodgers in him, man. But when I was watching Wiggins in the room, I was like, He reminds me of Jair, and I already was like thinking that when I watch a lot of Clemson too. Their offense sucked, but their defense was good all year, and I think he's a stud. And I also think he could play inside, and if you got to move him outside, he could do so. But with Jordan Morgan, so really quick, going back to the guy we actually took, and I would love to take Coop in the second round. I feel bad he didn't go in the first round because I think he's an absolute stud. Obviously, we haven't seen a white corner since Jason Sehorn, so that scares people. But if you like the Van Ness pick, how would you not like Cooper DeJean? Like, I trust that defensive system, and people keep bringing up Josh Jackson, and I really like that pick too. I'm not going to lie. That was another one that I really liked. He didn't pan out, but I think that Cooper's just a different player. He's a little bit bigger. And even if he's a safety, shoot, I mean, like, we could use another safety. We always lack play at safety. So anyway, Jordan Morgan.
If he's going to be a safety, I said I'm fine with it. I just don't want him at corner.
I also don't think I agree with that. You know, like, have we talked to him about that? Has anybody said, hey, man, are you a safety or a corner? And then that's what I'm saying. Like, he could be
what he thinks. You're in the NFL, dude. You're going to go play safety. It's like Leroy Butler. He got drafted as a corner. They said, might be better at safety. All right, if you think so. And they moved him to safety, and he ends up in the Hall of Fame. Who cares?
Yeah. And also, let's not write off Eric Stokes. I know we just talked about this. I know we can't trust him, but let's not write off. Like, I mean, he was a first-round talent, and he played really good his rookie season. And I don't think that's like a career-ending injury. From like all the podcasts I listen to one, it's like a sports betting podcast I really like, Bet the Board. I guess I'll shout it out. And they have that one of the NFL doctor guys on. He was like really adamant on this though. Like, hey, Stokes is not going to be Stokes this year. So, but he's like, he's going to be Stokes. He's like, he's going to return to form. And if he returns to form, what we saw as a rookie, man, like, you know, he's still, you would figure, especially if a good defensive system's coming in with Jeff Hafley, like, he's going to learn that system and he's going to pick up on stuff. So even if it takes him a little bit to become himself on the field again. But anyway, I got to get back on task. Jordan Morgan.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot to talk about.
Take a corner at 41, then they don't buy Stokes either way, which means you should have moved up, like I said, and took Mitchell or Arnold with one of those damn picks. If you take a cornerback at 41 or if you take a cornerback at 58, because clearly you still don't believe in your cornerback. Now, they don't take a cornerback on day 2 and they go, we're good at the cornerback room. Okay. Then they believe in Stokes and they better be right. Then fine. Then case closed. They don't think cornerback's an issue like everybody else. So fine, move on. But if they take a cornerback tomorrow in the second round, then whatever. Go ahead. I'm not going to be happy. This is just going to be another long 17 minutes of this podcast. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do think that they probably do take a corner, though. I mean, you got...
Of course they do. Yes, of course. Yes. Probably right there with that first pick in the second round is my guess.
See, this is why I got to be honest. Like, usually I'm Mr. Negative, and I kind of like Jordan Morgan. And I know on social media and stuff, people probably think I hate the pick. What scares me a little bit is he doesn't have the longest arms, like, for a tackle. And also, he's already torn his ACL, but he played a full season after he tore the ACL, and he looked really good, and he looked really good on one-on-one drills. And, like, the knock on him is, okay, so he could get pushed around a little bit, even when he's in front of defenders. That's because he needs to gain some muscle. He's a college kid, and I know he's an older college kid, but he's 6'6", 320. It's a big-ass boy, right? So, like, and you get him into town, what does Green Bay always develop, man? Like, hey, I got to be honest, dude. I didn't trust David Bakhtiari those first 2 years. He held way too much.
Bakhtiari shouted him out today on Twitter, wished him luck, carry the Jeep, play the position well. He shouted out Bakhtiari with the press and said he studied a lot of Bakhtiari film. So I don't know if they know each other or not, but there's some synergy already going on between the two.
I always say this when we do this. I feel like I'm decent, like, evaluating quarterbacks, just like, and this isn't like, I'm not like, like tooting my own horn here, but whenever I spent a lot of time like watching a lot of football with my grandpa. And so he was always a big running back offensive line guy because at Joliet Catholic, they ran the double wing. And so I would always try to pick up on stuff with the offensive line. So I would like watch, and I could tell you, like, when I watch Jordan Morgan, I would say, like, I think he's got really good hand placement and pass pro. And I think that's why Goot would like him a lot, right? Because let's look at what we know, right? on the offensive side of the ball. You're pretty
Go
much
watch.
set.
Go.
Except
I'm telling
you
you.
lost
Go
two
watch.
offensive linemen,
Go watch the
including-
Mike Wall video, please. I beg you. Go watch the
Dude,
Mike Wall video.
No, I
think
know
you're gonna be as
exactly.
depressed as me. I promise you. You'll be
I
depressed.
won't be, because I know exactly what he's saying. I could tell you a bunch of bad stuff, right? Like shorter stride length on his kick slides, nerdy stuff, right? Good anchor technique, but I think he lands like sand. Like I don't think he could stop people cold. I think he's athletic. I worry a little bit that, again, like I think he'll be a better player year 3. I think it's going to take him some time to build some muscle. I still think, even though he's 6'6", 320, and he's a big dude, I think he's got some like baby fat. I think he needs to maybe like lean out. And that's what I'm saying about these NFL linemen. It's not like back in the day where during the offseason and during the season they're drinking beer and eating chicken wings. Like he's going to get to Green Bay and they're going to beat the S out of him. You know what I mean? Like they're going to put muscle on him. And then before you know it, you're not going to worry about a torn ACL, short arms, and he's just going to – I never really worry about this team developing offensive linemen. I really don't. And it's crazy to say this. I actually kind of trust Goot in his process here. Because here's why, man. Here's why I'd be pissed tonight. I'd be pissed if they didn't take Cooper DeJean and he went to the frickin' Vikings, the Lions, the not like, you know what I mean? Or any of those teams that we're going to draft. But here's the thing. All those teams are freaking out about wide receivers and Green Bay doesn't have that problem, right? Or they're freaking out about pass rushers. And we just paid Rashawn Gary a crap load of money to have no sacks the second half of the season. But that's for another podcast. Coop's still on the board. You don't love him, but you like Kool-Aid. He's still on the board, right? Like Rackstraw Jr. from Missouri, he could end up being the best corner in this draft, Goot thinks. He's still on the board. TJ Tampa from Iowa State still on the board, right? Like Javon Bullard, maybe they want to go safety, is still on the board. Tyler Nubin from Minnesota is still on the board. Cole Bishop's still on the board. That's why I'm not freaking out yet, is because I look at these dudes that are going to go in the second round, and because of Aaron Rodgers, the savior of our franchise, we got 2 second-round picks, so we can still get our dudes. If they want to go wide receiver, like at worst, maybe you get Keon Coleman in like the 3rd round. There's still a lot of really good players on this draft because for whatever reason, some teams lost their mind tonight. I love Michael Penix, Spark.
Oh, just hold on. Let's take a quick time out. We'll come back. We'll talk about the rest of this.
I'm sorry. I was going to swear on this.
I'm done talking about this pick. See Sparky Fifer mad. At Sparky Radio, Ryan Horvat, who said he wasn't going to do the podcast tonight on Twitter, no pod. So I thought he was mad too. Turns out he's not. He's not that mad at all. At Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight. I'm sure they were very entertaining as always this evening. Catch them weeknights. I'm part of the BetQL radio network. Catch me on Wisconsin Sports Daily weekday afternoons, 2 to 5 on 1250 AM The Fan. Listen on your Odyssey app or turn on the radio dial if you're in southeastern Wisconsin. Also, don't forget, after every Milwaukee Bucks basketball game, including on Friday after Game 3, Bucks Pacers, we have the Potawatomi Sportsbook Pro Hoops post-game show served up by Wendy's. Looking forward to doing that one tomorrow night after the Bucks. Now, they may get blown out if there's no Giannis and Middleton, but we'll see how that one goes. Take a quick time out and we'll talk about the rest of the NFL draft next. Back on Kurt and Long, Steve Sparky Fifer, along with Ryan Horvat of BetMGM tonight. I, of course, of Wisconsin Sports Daily, weekday afternoons, 2 to 5 on 1250 AM The Fan. Time now to talk about the rest of the NFL draft. Before we went to break, Horvat brought up Michael Penix. My kid, junior in high school, is a big Falcons fan, which we've talked about in the past. The Falcons were on the board, and I was listening to Bart Winkler and JR Sport Brief on 1250 The Fan. They were doing pretty good.
To the kid.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I was listening to them. First time those two had done a draft show together. It was okay. They were entertaining. And JR Sport Brief does his show from Atlanta.
So, did he have Xavier Legette going in the first round, making everybody rich tonight? Hell no, he didn't. But sorry, I had to toot my own horn. Beep, beep, the best in the world. Ooh,
yeah, but we're not talking about that pick, man. Focus. So Atlanta's on the board. So he's right there, right? Falcons guy in the heart of Atlanta. So he's all like, man, they need a pass rusher. They don't have any pass rushers. They had some old guy, Calais Campbell, last year. Got to have a pass rusher. And I'm texting my kid. I'm like, hey, man, Rome Odunze is right there. Like, you put him with Drake London and Kyle Pitts, with Kirk Cousins. Man, that offense is nuts. They get Odunze here. And when they announced Michael Penix, I thought J.R. Sport Brief was going to start crying on the radio. He's like, man. He's like, you don't even know what this is going to be like in this town now. You don't even know what it's about to be like. Well, I'm going to have to deal with living in this town now because they had to go make that pick. And you know what? If you look at Kirk Cousins' contract, he's owed $90 million the next 2 years. Then in 2026, he's owed 10. So they're going to cut him and be done with him or trade him after year 2 of this deal. That's what this means. He's there 2 years, and that's the end of this. And Michael Penix will be the starting quarterback sooner if he gets hurt before that, obviously. This is not exactly the same as Aaron Rodgers because they literally just signed this guy to come in and play and then drafted his replacement. So it's not exactly the same, but kind of is because, like Jordan Love, he's going to have to sit and wait for a couple of years behind established NFL quarterback. And Kirk Cousins now, I'm guessing, has probably already talked to Aaron Rodgers at some point tonight would be my guess. Go ahead, Ryan Horvat.
Oh, you know that story is going to come out. They
probably had to have talked. Yes.
You know it, man. But no, I mean, it kind of reminds you of the situation. So totally, like if I'm an Atlanta fan, I feel probably, but here's the thing, like, I don't know that I would hate it so much because I really like Michael Penix. It's funny because they keep running this promo on the network and it's me talking about how I think Michael Penix is going to be the steal of the draft. And I said that because I thought he was going to go somewhere like Seattle where like he would ball out in the preseason.
Seattle, the Saints, and the Saints. There's another one. I don't think it was the Vikings. There were 3 teams trying to get into the top 10 to take Penix, was the report later tonight after the Penix pick was made.
Yeah. And so the Raiders or no?
Maybe the Raiders. That could have been the other one. Yeah. But there were 3 teams trying to get into the top 10. And the guy that reported it said, see, maybe the Falcons weren't so crazy taking him at 8. They were mad because they took him at 8. They were mad because they just signed Kirk Cousins to a crazy, very rich deal. Literally happened. And you just drafted a quarter. It couldn't have been anybody. It had nothing to do with Penix going at 8. That reporter was like insulted and thought it was because they took him at 8. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was Michael Penix. They could have took JJ McCarthy at 8 and Falcons fans would have been livid. It would not have mattered who the quarterback was.
Yeah, no, I know. And the other thing about Penix too is like you're taking a guy that, like, if you're taking a quarterback at number 8 or a top 10 quarterback, and I mean, like, we all know this, you're taking him to start right away because you want him on a rookie contract so you could pay everybody else. But what doesn't make sense about taking Penix or Bo Nix is a top 10 pick if you weren't going to start him right away, Spark, is they're like our age.
They're old, right? Penix has been around a long time. He started in Indiana. Everybody remember him at Indiana?
Yeah, and he's had way more and like we're actually healthier. Yeah, like he's got they showed it, man, his shoulders and then the ACL. But here's what I'll say about it, right? I've kind of come around on this because Jordan Love was an instant success and they didn't skip a beat. In Atlanta, while they're trying to win this year, do you feel good about Atlanta if they meet up against the Bengals, the Chiefs, Rodgers, and the Jets, let's say, are good this year?
You're staying in a Super Bowl?
That's what I mean, dude. Like,
I think a Super Bowl. I think Falcons fans are just happy with winning the division. That's good enough. And then whatever it's in the playoffs happens. Just win the division and we're good. Call it a day.
Okay. So here's where, like, this is why I'll give Goot maybe some praise on Jordan Morgan. Maybe he knows something like
we're done talking about that pick, Horvat. Stay focused on Atlanta. Don't bring me back to depression mode. I finally just moved off of depression mode to talk about a different team.
You can't talk about this Atlanta pick without talking about the Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers pick because it's almost the same thing. That's why I'm
Jordan Morgan.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. So if there's a general manager, if there's an organization that's scouting talent, right? Like they're looking at different things. We don't like the Jordan Morgan pick. I wanted a DB, you wanted a DB. They see a superstar stud. When they took Jordan Love, I saw T. Higgins double-digit touchdowns, red zone threat. They saw a backup quarterback for a couple of years, then maybe best quarterback in the NFC. And that's why Green Bay is predicted to win 11 games this season. in the NFC North are not far off. You know what I mean? And we're talking about Jordan Love. Is he like a top 5 quarterback? He beat Pat Mahomes last year and then went into Dallas and beat the freaking Cowboys and should have beat the Niners, let's be honest, right? So that's what I'm saying is like scouting's different. You know, everybody has a different eye for this kind of stuff. And so if you saw Penix and you know Kirk Cousins when the season starts is going to be what, 37, 38 years old. He's coming off an Achilles injury. And you're like, all right, we probably have him for 2 years, right? We're only like, what's Atlanta's ceiling? Like you said, they just want to make the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game, build some culture. So if you got Cousins for a couple of years, you're kind of like almost playing with house money, and maybe you win a Super Bowl. Because I think like Atlanta looked at it like this, and Raheem knows defense way better than we do. So if he's like, I don't really like Turner. And dude, a defensive player, when's the last time a defensive player didn't go until that late in the draft? It's been a long, long time.
Like
Maybe Atlanta looked
90s,
at it.
I think it was 94, maybe something like that.
So Atlanta probably looked at it like, hey, these corners aren't going to go, right? And so we like Penix. We're gonna. I don't know. Actually, the more I think about this, why wouldn't you just trade back? Nobody else was going to take him unless maybe Denver had the. See, that's the thing that we don't know.
That's
man.
what I'm telling you, though, right? Three teams were trying to get into the top 10 to take Penix.
Yeah, I don't know, but what I'm saying is I don't know that I believe it. But yeah, the more I think about it, you're right. They probably were. It was probably you're right.
But here, I add this to it. Do you know who wanted Penix? Do you know whose pick this was? According to multiple people. Do you know who fell in love with him? Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris fell in love with Penix and was the one pounding the table for Fontenot to go get him Michael Penix. The head coach, the defensive head coach, was the guy that fell in love with the quarterback.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I predicted that it would be a Russ Wilson, Matt Flynn type situation where he would ball out in the preseason and then take over and be the starting quarterback. But, I mean, now he's not going to have that opportunity unless Cousins just isn't ready. And if he's not ready, then Atlanta really messed up giving him all that money, whether it's a 2-year deal or he stays there the 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So I don't love the pick for Atlanta, but it's so hard to crap on it because I crapped on the Jordan Love pick, which everybody will always remind me. And Kirk Cousins isn't Aaron Rodgers. And what if Atlanta's like, hey, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, this offensive line, we're young. And our ceiling isn't this year. Our ceiling's maybe in 3 years. So if you have Penix sit behind Kirk Cousins, also, like if Kirk Cousins isn't right or he gets hurt, he's old. Like they also just saw what happened with the Jets. The Jets put all their eggs in one basket because Zach Wilson was crap. And they bring in Rodgers, right? Sacrifice a lot of their future for Aaron Rodgers. He carries out the American flag, and 4 plays later, he's done for the season. So at least if that happens, you don't have to turn to frickin' Zach Wilson. You have Michael Penix, right? Who's old and ready to go. And if you go to him in 2 years, you don't have to rebuild with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. And you have a bunch of money to spend on the defense because you still don't really have to commit a bunch to Michael Penix. And also, maybe you'll get a good discount when it is time to pay Michael Penix, right? You made him a top 10 pick. I still think it's kind of crazy. But I'm just saying I don't want to crap on it because I think he's going to be a stud. I think Michael Penix is awesome. And I think he's a lot more athletic than a lot of people realize. He just ran a 4.5 40 even after 2 torn ACLs.
I'm a big fan of Michael Penix. Big fan. Yeah. Regardless of where he would have went, I think Michael Penix has been a great college quarterback. So I'm never going to rip on Michael Penix because I think he's going to be really good in the NFL. We'll see. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Can we talk about the other teams in the division before we wrap this up, please?
Yeah.
A+ Chicago Bears. You couldn't have done that any better. To get Odunze, who's already been working out with your quarterback, who's been working out with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore already. I'm sorry. Like, if they screw this up in Chicago, they ought to just sell the damn franchise. Just sell it and move on. Forget about the new stadium. If you screw this up with what you have, I'm telling you, just sell the franchise. McCaskey, sell it, and maybe you'll get some new momentum and some new luck with somebody else. If this goes sideways and they can't win with this, I don't know what else to tell.
Yeah, I don't think, man, I completely agree. Like, if this isn't finally the quarterback, then they've done something wrong, right? Because I liked Justin Fields, and I kind of knew what Justin Fields was. You had to run the right offense. Like you got to run like what Baltimore was running for Lamar when Greg Roman was there. You can't run. He's not a drop back quarterback, but Caleb Williams could do it all. So if you can't figure it out for Caleb Williams with Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and the thing about DJ Moore, man, is like he's probably a top 10 receiver in the league. A lot of people just don't realize that because he's got like PJ XFL and a bunch like Sam Darnold throwing him the football, like guys like you and me. So now, like, there's no excuses. I completely agree. They fixed up the offensive line. The defense was top 10 the second half of the season, and that's Eberflus's thing. They got to get like a really good defensive tackle. That's like what they really need. That's what anchors that Eberflus defense. Yep. But yeah, man, if I was going to buy stock in any team other than the Packers for the next 10 years, it would be the Bears. And I feel like that's going to be a real rivalry, and it's going to be fun because I think Caleb Williams is going to be really good. Caleb Williams from a clean pocket's the best quarterback in the nation. He struggles when he's under pressure, and that's why it's so important for Green Bay to have really good pass rushers, though. If you go back and you watch the tape at USC, that's where he struggles. And maybe that changes in the pros, but he was like his accuracy, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the country when he's pressured. But when he throws from a clean pocket around the run, he's awesome. But you just got to get home on him.
Okay. So they're happy. Bears fans happy. Then we talk about the Lions, who screwed the Packers, and they probably wouldn't have taken him anyhow. Not that for Gutekunst's cost, he would have just let one of the top corners go by to take a guard. Either way, so they get Terry Arnold. That's a home run pick. Absolutely a stud pick by the Detroit Lions, worth trading up for. Agree?
Oh yeah, I thought it was an excellent pick, dude. Even if they went Kool-Aid McKinstry, I would have said that's an excellent pick for Detroit. That's like the one weakness that they have is, the pass defense. And I think he's going to be really good. I think all these guys are going to be really good. But I don't think that you could look at that and be angry with what Green Bay did, just because I'm going to say, just again, because a lot of those guys are still on the board, even if it's like Nate Wiggins or, you know what I mean? Like, hey, the year that they took Jair first, I was pissed because I wanted Josh Jackson. And then they got Josh Jackson and he was no good. So I was wrong and they were right.
I would have loved Wiggins too over DeJean, but I knew that wasn't happening because he doesn't meet their weight requirements or whatever crap they got going on in Green Bay. So that wasn't going to happen either. I already made up my mind that I wasn't going to see that happen. Oh, you watch. That kid is going to be a stud in Baltimore. Watch Wiggins. He's going to have an unbelievable career. And if I'm wrong, fine. I'll eat my words, but you mark my words. He's going to be a stud. Okay. Now let's talk about the Vikings. Because this one here is a little interesting. They get their quarterback that they wanted in McCarthy. And then they get who some thought was the best pass rusher in this draft in Dallas Turner of Alabama. Mm-hmm. But they have 3 picks in the 25 draft right now as we sit here today. They have 3 picks. That's all they got next year in the draft. They gave up a whole bunch of capital to get McCarthy and then to move up to get Turner. What they gave up to get Turner was psychotic in nature. He better be a perennial Pro Bowler. Otherwise, that's going to be one of the worst Vikings trades ever. So from that perspective, I mean, it's not going to top Herschel Walker, let's be honest. But outside of that, it's going to be one of the worst trades ever if he doesn't end up being that guy. But on the surface, if you take away draft pick capital that they lost, I like both players. I like McCarthy. I like Dallas Turner. I thought as far as adding talent to their locker room, it makes sense. It may screw them next year, but it makes sense from a talent perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad that you went there too, man, because, I mean, like Meathead Horvat, I hate the Vikings. I hate Skull. I hate all that stuff. I hope they never win a Super Bowl, but I really like what they did tonight, and I also like both players. I agree they got the best pass rusher. That's why what Atlanta did didn't really make sense, dude, because you probably could have got Penix later, and they really needed a pass rusher. And what I like about him is that he drops back in coverage too, and that's what Raheem loves. Like he's actually decent in coverage, which you're probably not going to ask him to do. You probably just want him rushing the quarterback. He could be a double-digit sack guy. I completely agree. He's got the long enough arms, the stuff that the scouts like. And with JJ, like Kirk Cousins, you saw what he did in that offense when he was healthy in the Kevin O'Connell offense. And that's what that's where he's at his best. He can make all the throws and he's really good off play action. In fact, he was the best quarterback in the country, I believe, off play action and from a clean pocket. Kind of like Caleb, he struggles a little bit when he's under pressure. So, but I like it, man. I'm not a big JJ hater. I saw him in high school his junior year. He lost to Mount Carmel in the IHSA state championship game, and he was like crying after the game. We were all joking around like, this kid is like the top prospect, but he's a winner. And I think he's like everything that you want with your quarterback too. You're never going to worry, if his head's in the playbook or what he's doing off the field. I think he is a winner. And I actually kind of like what Minnesota did. I think the NFC North is one of the best divisions in all of football. Definitely the best division in the entire NFC, which is crazy to say because last year I didn't think it was going to be any good. I thought all these teams were rebuilding. Now we have Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, and Jordan Love. It's going to be so fun.
And Hendon Hooker.
Well, we got Jared Goff. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you're kind of right because the Lions didn't commit to him.
Hendon Hooker is in Detroit. He's the future quarterback of that organization as we sit. So those are your 4 quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Hendon Hooker, J.J. McCarthy, and Jordan Love. Good luck. There's going to be a lot of excitement going on in this division going forward. All right, we got to wrap this up. But one other team maybe that you really liked what they did.
So, oh man. So I liked that the Jets, I got to bring them up really quick because I thought that they were going to go Brock Bowers. And while that would be kind of exciting for Rodgers to finally have a tight end, that's just not where you go. You had to get a tackle. You need depth on that offensive line, whether they bring in a guy like David Bakhtiari, who may not even end up playing football or may end up going somewhere else. I think you needed to make the safe pick, and they finally did that. And that was good to see. Vikings, love what they did. There wasn't a whole lot that I hated. I know a lot of people are going to hate what the Broncos did. Sean Payton's never taken a quarterback in the first round. And while some people right now think he's crazy, who knows, man? Bo Nix running that offense. He completes 75% of his passes. I'm kind of excited about that. To be honest, I like what the Giants did. I like that the Giants didn't draft Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, or Bo Nix. And I get that Daniel Jones isn't that guy, and next year Quinn Ewers probably isn't that guy. But look what they did this offseason. They fixed up the pass rush, and then they brought in now a legit number 1 wide receiver. Daniel Jones, I don't think is as terrible as everybody makes him out to be. He's not an all-pro quarterback. He's never going to be the reason a team wins the Super Bowl. But he's never had a real number 1 weapon. His best weapon was Saquon Barkley, and now he's gone. And here's the thing, dude. If you bring in J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, you're still on the hook for Daniel Jones for this year. You can't cut him. What message does that send to the team? Then you got a pissy Daniel Jones, or you have a rookie that doesn't know where he stands in that locker room. You know what I mean? So I actually kind of like that the Giants took the best receiver, and they're going to try to win. And then maybe they get their quarterback next year, whoever that is. So be honest, I don't really have any complaints about any of the teams. I like what everybody did except for Atlanta. And I love Penix, and I don't want to crap on it again, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Right
there
now.
He is, Ryan Horvat, Steve Sparky Fifer with you. That'll do it for another edition of Curd and Long. And of course, we normally do these 3 times a week. I may do one tomorrow night. I'm not going to bother Horvat on a Friday night if he doesn't want to do it, but I may do one because we're talking about 4 guys possibly for the Packers Friday night, possibly getting drafted. So I may do one if I'm up Friday night and not knocked out sleeping somewhere. So we'll see how that one goes. Ryan Horvat, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you.
Toodles.